Cuban Missile Crisis. Cuban Missile Crisis happened in the year 1962, and it was considered to be one of the significant events that happened in the Cold War time period. So what happened in Cuba then? Cuba became a communist state under Fidel Castro in 1959. So it became a communist state. Already there is rivalry, there is suspicion going on between the capitalist and the communist countries. So now when Cuba is actually becoming a communist state, then the suspicion of the capitalist countries will increase, like the United States. So US-Cuba relations deteriorated. It led to the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, which failed to overthrow Fidel Castro. So the objective of that particular invasion was to overthrow Fidel Castro and his administration, but they failed to do that. To counter US threats, Cuba sought military support from the Soviet Union. So that time, communism was existing in Soviet Union, and Soviet Union was the torch bearer for the communist ideologies in the world. So Cuba sought military support from the Soviet Union. So what did Soviet Union do? Soviet Union secretly deployed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from US shores, to counterbalance the US missiles in Turkey and Italy. So now the Soviet Union is assisting Cuba. So when the United States came to know about it, so the American spy planes discovered missile installations in Cuba in October 1962. So what they did was they actually informed it to the administration. So the President John F. Kennedy during that time, he actually declared a situation of threat to US security and imposed a naval blockade on Cuba to prevent further Soviet shipments. So America has imposed that naval blockade on Cuba. So then there comes a very tense situation, and the crisis escalated as both superpowers approached the brink of a nuclear war. So there were a lot of quarrels going on, a lot of conflicts going on. So we were in the brink of a nuclear war also. And behind the scenes negotiations happened and between the United States and the Soviet leaders, and that is the reason why that particular problem came to an end. So let's see what all things happened during that time. So the Soviet Union agreed to dismantle and remove its missiles from Cuba based on the discussions and the negotiations. Then in return, US also promised not to invade Cuba and secretly agreed to remove its missiles from Turkey. So this is what happened. So when this negotiation came into being, so they agreed to remove their missiles. So the crisis marked a turning point in the Cold War, emphasizing the need for direct communication between the superpowers. Okay, it's very, very important. If you want to sort out certain things, you need to communicate directly. So they actually understood the importance of direct communication between these superpowers, because the world does not want another world war. Already we have witnessed the devastating effects of World War I and World War II. So there was a hotline agreement which was established to allow immediate communication between United States and Soviet leaders to prevent future crises. So in order to prevent such kind of crisis and conflicts and confusion, they have agreed on a hotline agreement. Then both nations became more cautious in their dealings, leading to agreements like Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. So what is the relevance of Cuban Missile Crisis in the history? The Cuban Missile Crisis is considered the closest the world came to nuclear war during the Cold War time period. So it was actually a very dangerous situation, but it was amicably resolved. That is the reason why we were able to have peace in the world during that time. It highlighted the dangers of brinkmanship and underscored the need for diplomacy in international relations. Okay, so already we have witnessed the world wars, and now we are going through something called as the Cold War, and anytime a hot war can actually happen, anytime a nuclear war can happen. That was the situation during this Cold War time period. So they understood the need for diplomacy in international relations, because for the world peace and security, diplomacy was really, really needed. Okay, so that was the importance of Cuban Missile Crisis in the Cold War time period.